All right. Here we are again. This shouldn't take too long, probably. But I'm gonna. We're continuing with the dev commentary run. So now we're doing Lost Coast. Now, in my original playthrough, I decided to play it. I decided to play Lost Coast somewhat like where it might have been in the main game, because Lost Coast was originally a section of the coast section of the game, but it was cut sometime during development. Uh, then they went back for a they went back as a kind of during when they were working on high dynamic rendering or high dynamic range rendering. That's what it was, HDR. So they went back and like kind of rejiggered this section and to work with that. So I'm thinking a lot of the commentary is going to probably be about HDR, but let's find out anyway, shall we?
Hi, this is Gabe Newell, and welcome to the Lost Coast. In this tour, we're going to be talking about a new graphics technology we've been developing called High Dynamic Range, or HDR. We'll also be giving you some insight into the design and production challenges we faced during the construction of the Lost Coast. First, a quick explanation of the commentary system. To listen to a commentary node, put your crosshair over the floating commentary symbol and press your use key. To stop the commentary, put your crosshair over the rotating node and press your use key again. Some commentary nodes may take control of the game for the purpose of showing something to you. In these cases, simply pressing your use key will stop the commentary.
I've noticed that the commentary node is a lot simpler in this. I assume that means the base game probably took the commentary node icons from the episodes. We'll find out. Because, like I said, this is not going to probably be that long.
With conventional rendering, seen here on the left, if something on the screen is 20% reflective, like the wet sand, then the maximum reflected brightness could only be 20% of the maximum brightness of your monitor. HDR's more accurate simulation of light ensures that the sun's reflection on this wet sand appears as it would in the real world, which could potentially use 100% of the maximum monitor brightness. HDR uses bloom to simulate light that is beyond 100% of a monitor's maximum brightness.
Yeah, like I thought, a lot of the most of the commentary is going to be about HDR, but I mean, why not learn about HDR anyway?
When the art team started to think about a location that would demonstrate the power of HDR, a beach was one of the first choices we made. The visual relationship between the sky, the water, and the rocks is something we could not achieve without HDR. In order for high dynamic range to correctly simulate the light's interaction with the surfaces around you, like these wet rocks, we needed more precise information about the surfaces than we've had in the past. And now going forward, we're modeling textures in 3D packages to ensure that the physical information encoded in the texture allows HDR to correctly bounce light off the surface. We also designed the colors and values of each surface to ensure they will be correct across all exposure levels.
So yeah, they have to store extra information about the textures in order to have the HDR render correctly.
The process of building characters in Half-Life 2 taught us many things. By the end, we believed we'd figured out a more effective process for designing and constructing characters. This fisherman is the first character we built using that process. Design-wise, the fisherman was focused on showcasing HDR and the way light falls on human skin. The highlights on his forehead and nose are good examples of specularity on human skin. You can see how the wrinkles on his cheeks and around his eyes are an example of how we can use normal maps to add depth. Production-wise, the fisherman was built using a similar process to the rocks you saw on the beach. We model the 3D character at a very high detail, then extract much of the physical information and store it in the textures.
Hey! You there? Wait a minute now, aren't you? You are. You're that scientist chap, Friedman. Fishman.
Yep.
Am I right?
Yeah, something like that.
You must be here to take on the Combine. Not sure what one man can do, but no other reason to visit St. Olga at a time like this. I'll take you to where they made their base, or as far as I can, at any rate.
So the point, my question is, I questioned this also when I was playing it. It's like, I don't know when on the coast section this was supposed to have taken place, because when you start here on the beach, it doesn't... Like, they've kind of probably changed where... Like, probably, like, during the coast section, you would have driven to St. Olga, I would imagine, rather than...
Here, now, let me just unlock this gate for you.
Water presents us with a lot of rendering challenges. In fact, we have to render the scene 3 times. Once for the refraction of what's under the water, once for the reflection of everything above the water, and once from the player's view. You can see the reflection and refraction scenes in the 2 small windows on screen. In the refraction, we calculate per pixel how much water you're looking through to do a volumetric underwater fog to simulate particulate matter. For our full HDR solution, we had to go through the entire engine and modify every bit of code that calculated light and color. For example, these water reflection and refraction renderings had to be improved to support the full range of contrast values.
Got the key right here. There we go. Get along now, laddie. Destroy that gun and no dawdling.
Can I use your, No, can I use your spear? Dude, can I spear some dudes?
I'll be here waiting for you.
Can I spear some Combine? This will actually be a lot more fun than actually shooting them, I feel like. Oh my god, can I? Please. Oh my god, yes! Oh, give me the spear. Come on down! Oh, where'd you go? Alright, well, I guess we gotta switch to a gun. Like a normal person. Fun time with the spear is over, because I lost it.
The area you're currently entering is called the Cliffside Arena. We were particularly happy with the vertical cliffside in Half-Life 1 and regretted that we didn't iterate further on that concept in Half-Life 2. Vertical space allows us to force the player to deal with threats from above and below. We find that players focus their view on the direction they're traveling, so by using a cliffside and having the player ascend it, we ensure that the player will look up and be prepared for enemies. If the player's path was to move past the bottom of the cliffside, it would be unlikely he would notice soldiers rappelling down from above. And dying from unknown threats never feels fair and certainly isn't fun.
Indeed.
Administered. Minor fracture detected.
Don't worry, I'm just an idiot. Up. Oh. Well, we get a lot less fun with the spear this time.
The area you're currently entering is called the Cliffside Arena. We were particularly happy with the vertical cliffside in Half-Life 1 and regretted that we didn't iterate further on that concept in Half-Life 2. Vertical space allows us to force the player to deal with threats from above and below. We find that players focus their view on the direction they're traveling, so by using a cliffside and having the player ascend it, we ensure that the player will look up and be prepared for enemies. If the player's path was to move past the bottom of the cliffside, it would be unlikely he would notice soldiers rappelling down from above. And dying from unknown threats never feels fair and certainly isn't fun.
I feel like that was what was supposed to have happened during the base game when the commentary turns on. The AI is supposed to turn off. Like, it's supposed to do nothing. I don't in the base game it was not doing that. I just couldn't be hit by anything, which is kind of the same thing, but it also isn't. Is there a guy upstairs still? We'll see him in a second here. Oh. Now who's on the high ground?
Blood loss detected.
It's me. In case you didn't know. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh fuck.
Don't look down.
Okay, Mr. Fisherman.
One of the features of our HDR solution is dynamic tone mapping. The easiest way to think about dynamic tone mapping is that it's a method of simulating the way the human eye reacts to light. In the real world, you've probably walked into a dark room and noticed your eye adjusting to the darkness, letting you see better after some time. Or you've walked out into a bright day and been blinded by the sun, only to have your eye adjust and allow you to see normally. Your iris is adjusting itself in response to the amount of light hitting your eye. Dynamic tone mapping simulates this by automatically adjusting the exposure of the scene to mimic the behavior of your iris. You can see this as the view moves from the dark tunnel to the bright sun and back again. Here, you can see the way we calculate the amount of light hitting the player's eyes. We take a snapshot of the scene, measure the brightness levels, and then use that to adjust exposure. We consider light at the center of the screen more important than at the edges to better simulate the geometry of the eye.
Interesting. Oh, is that gonna? I was about to say, the information blurb was still kind of there, even though it shouldn't have been.
The courtyard in front of you is a space we call an arena. Arenas are built to hold the player for a period of time and usually contain combat or some other challenge. They often have multiple entry points for enemies, along with a gate of some kind to prevent the player moving on until the challenge has been completed. In this case, the arena is free of enemies until the player solves a puzzle and triggers an alarm. This is a method that allows the player to explore the arena and get a sense of its space before being forced to fight in it. It adds a sense of uneasiness to the player who's expecting to be attacked now that they've reached the goal set for them at the start of the map. The break in the action here is also a crucial part of the level's pacing. It allows the player to recover and explore the world a little after being attacked on the way up the cliffside.
I think the puzzle they're talking about is the one inside the church, right? Which shows a thing that was cut from the game originally.
The source engine supports a wide variety of shaders. The refraction shader on the window here requires us to copy the scene to a texture, refract it, and then apply it to the window surface. To fully support HDR, every shader in the engine needed to be updated. So this refraction shader was improved to support the full range of contrast. If you viewed the sun through this window, it would be refracted correctly.
Can we do that? Hold on. Is there a way to see the door through the window? Maybe not.
We wanted to transition from a bright, wide open space into a tighter, closed one to showcase HDR's dynamic tone mapping. We also like to focus on contrasting elements in our settings, like ancient human architecture and futuristic combine technology. A monastery fit these requirements perfectly. Monasteries are generally isolated, unlit, and built ages ago. They provide a great backdrop for the contrasting combine technology. When we build fictional settings, we try to ground them by basing them off a real-world location. We use this location as a design constraint that forces a logical consistency behind the art choices. Churches are great dramatic spaces.
That's true.
They're often lit naturally with extremes of darkness and brightness, which makes them a great showcase for HDR. Gothic churches are the sober monochromatic spaces that you've seen in almost every horror movie or game. Byzantine churches, on the other hand, are very colorful and have a large variety of materials. We wanted that color and material variety to show off our HDR reflections.
I mean, again, they mean of the light, I imagine, because they're not actually. It's not actually reflecting anything. It wouldn't be reflecting anything other than light, to be honest.
Our games are filled with things we call gates, which are essentially just challenges that the player must overcome to drive the experience forward. We used a puzzle here since the player has been through combat and exploration recently. When we design challenges, we try to ensure that the player's goal and the action required by the player are both fun. It's not hard to create interesting goals for the player, like stopping this machine from shelling the nearby village, but the action required by the player to solve the challenge needs to be fun as well. So instead of something menial, such as hitting an off switch, the player gets to use physics to jam the gun's mechanism and cause it to break.
Somehow that caused it to jam. It shouldn't have, but it did. Oh, hi. Like, that shouldn't have caused it to jam. I kind of messed that up. Whatever works, I guess. Oh, right. It's an ambush. I have to wait for them to show up. That worked out. Is that I think that was the rappel messing up. I was about to say, thank you. I needed to get through here. I guess I could have went out this way.
This marks the end of the Lost Coast tour. This has been an experiment on our part to see if our community would find it interesting to learn more about our development process. As always, we're interested in your feedback. I can be reached at gaben, Gaben, at valvesoftware.com. If people like this, we'll keep producing this kind of content for all of our games going forward. Thanks for listening.
And they did! I'm pretty sure literally almost every Valve game after this point has commentary in it. That's it. I find it. I mean, I guess it would make sense that his email is the exact same 20 years later. That's his work email. Of course, it would be the same.
You did it, lad. Come on with me to St. Olga. We'll celebrate this victory with a feast. I hope you like leeches. Hey, where you going? You're getting fuzzy around the edges. Well, I guess you got other places to be. Nice knowing ya.
All right, yeah, like I said, really short. It was just mostly, and I assumed it was just mostly going to be about them talking about the HDR technology they were working on. But I mean, it's still interesting to learn about what it takes to do that kind of rendering. So, and I mean, I also appreciate it for being the basically the groundwork for Valve deciding to put commentary in their games from that point on, because this was the first. Lost Coast was the first game that had the commentary. Then every game after that, I'm pretty sure every game. I'm not sure if I don't know. I don't think Dota 2 would have it. I don't know where they would put it. And I don't think when I played Aperture Desk Job, I don't think that had commentary, because that would also be kind of hard to put somewhere. But like all of their like major titles do, although some people would probably consider Dota 2 one of their major titles, but who knows? I mean, like, you know, like Counter-Strike might have it. I'm assuming it would have it in such a way that you wouldn't have it while you're playing multiplayer, obviously. So it basically would be an offline mode where you would load up a map and maybe they'll talk about the map. Like I don't know actually. So maybe the multiplayer game's not so much. But I know Episode 1 has it. I know Episode 2 has it. The Portal games have it. Left 4 Dead games have it, if I remember. So yeah. Anyway, that was Lost Coast, like I said. Just another a short detour because I wanted to do Lost Coast before doing Episode 1. And so yeah.